Final Wednesday of the month. Before you know it, we're going to be in May. We are watching states start to reopen. Today, I believe they're going to get pretty detailed about Florida's reopening, and I apologize for everybody outside of Florida who listens to this show, but that's where I live, and that's where, my environs, my surroundings, and I'm quite interested to see what they're going to do in terms of reopening businesses. I'm a selfish jerk, and I want a haircut. I just want a haircut. It's there's not much to look at on me, but at least I can get my hair groomed at some point. I threatened to go up to Georgia over the weekend, and I couldn't navigate what that would look like if I'd have to wait for hours outside in some town close to the Florida-Georgia border. The U.S. economy shrank at a 4.8% pace in the first quarter as the coronavirus spread. So it's the steepest contraction we've had in America since the last recession. Of course, we've heard all kinds of news reports warning of a pending depression, a severe depression. Or how many times did you hear the media say it'll be worse than the Great Depression in the history of America? It'll be brutal. We were told, of course, to be ready for a shortage of ventilators and hospital rooms and hospital beds and physicians. We still have horrific stories coming out of New York. A highly respected, beloved young emergency room physician taking her own life the other day. And I was thinking a lot about that physician's suicide that was covered pretty widely in the media. And I thought about the suicides that are undoubtedly increasing around the country as people are struggling through the depression and the anxiety and the fear that has enveloped the country. And I'm pretty good at getting the mood, sensing the mood of the American people. How could I not? I've got millions of people, thankfully, who listen every week to this show. I've got tons of ways that people can connect to me, and I get text messages and calls and emails, voicemails, and people are done. People are fed up. Americans are saying enough is enough. We know this virus is brutal. We know it can be deadly, but it's time to start reopening America. Every single day where we stay locked down is another furthering of the dying on the vine image that I see for America. Companies that are laying off people, and I saw a company yesterday making people take a 2-week mandatory unpaid vacation. That's kind of a nice way to put it, isn't it? You're going to have to you got 2 weeks. We're not going to pay you, but maybe if you think of it as a vacation, it won't hurt so much to not get paid for half a month. And of course, in the middle of all of this, it's almost like the insanity is at such a newer place. We've got a political season. We've got an election on November the 3rd. That's not going anywhere. That's not going away. Yesterday, the president talked about Joe Biden, who is his, I presumed, Democrat nominee opponent. I don't know at this point. I honest to goodness, if coronavirus has taught me anything, I better not predict anything ever again. So I'm not predicting anything. But it looks like it will be Joe Biden challenging President Trump. Why not? All the polls show Biden in a cakewalk. Every poll shows Biden clobbering President Trump across the board. Florida, Wisconsin, Ohio, every state. Biden's up 10, 20, 90 points. He's going to win easily. You see the endorsement from Hillary yesterday? It literally looked like Mr. Biden was falling asleep. He kept looking down, and I thought, oh, my goodness, he's taking a nap. And she's on one side of the screen. She's hunkered down at her home, I'm sure, in Chappaqua, New York. He's hunkered down in his basement in Wilmington, Delaware, and she endorsed him for president. It was one of the most awkward, weird. I mean, all of this is just weird, and it's not a weirdness that is, exclusive to Democrats. So yesterday, here's the president talking about Joe Biden, And of course, one of the things that has been one of the more polarizing aspects of President Trump's response was to ban China from traveling into China travel ban. And at the time, Joe Biden called him a xenophobe, said it was xenophobic and racist and wrong. According to President Trump, Biden later apologized for saying that.
We did, I think on January, toward the end of January, we did a ban with China. That was a very, I think you just said a little while ago, that was a very important step. And then ultimately we did a ban on Europe. That was very early in the process, because if you take the ban and you look at it, I was badly criticized by Sleepy Joe Biden, by others. I was criticized horribly. He said all sorts of things. We won't even say it. And then he apologized because 2 weeks ago he put out a statement that I was right. So we did a ban. John, as you know, we did a ban. And many people, Democrats, professionals, probably Republicans, said that this would never happen, there'd be nothing, no big problem. You saw that, I think, better than anybody, Deborah. This was after the ban, so obviously I took it very serious. I'm not going to be banning China from coming in if I didn't take it seriously, and I did that early.
You know, and I want to remind you, as Trump continues to get battered and beaten up by the press and complaining about him, you hear the reporters in the White House there, once again, continual unfettered access to the President of the United States, which has become a daily, sometimes multiple a day occurrence. Never gets credit for that. The reporters stand there, Jonathan Karl, Phil Rucker, Jim Acosta, they're all yelling at him, interrupting him, browbeating him, and yet he keeps taking it. He keeps having them come back in. Sometimes he swats back at him. For example, yesterday there was a reporter from Yahoo News, and he was getting into it. He mixed it up with Dr. Birx, and then President Trump got his licks in over this Yahoo reporter. Cut one.
So to our Yahoo gentlemen, I just want to make it clear that South Korea's testing was 11 per 100,000, and we're at 17 per 100,000.
Right.
So
are you going to apologize, Yahoo? That's why you're Yahoo, and nobody knows who the hell you are. Go ahead, let's
Based
go.
on the numbers I've seen,
that's why nobody knows who you are, including me. Go ahead.
Mr. President,
just check it again.
You ought to get your facts right before you.
Well, we have had 14
Okay, well, your facts are wrong.
I mean, that's why you're Yahoo. Nobody knows who the hell you are. Yahoo. I mean, you know, it is kind of a funny name for a reporter. It's a big company. And, you know, speaking of Yahoo and thinking about these big tech companies, how are we not brought to our knees by watching these tech companies ban and censor speech the way they're doing it? I watched a big segment last night on Tucker Carlson about the way these doctors from Bakersfield have been deplatformed. YouTube's position is, if you say something that is contrary to the World Health Organization, that's public harm, and we're going to remove the video altogether. Let that sink in for a moment. Facebook has proudly proclaimed that if you post an announcement that you want to have a protest outside City Hall, Facebook will take that post down. The tech companies are actively censoring Americans from expressing any form of dissent during the coronavirus era. Now, if you think this will end after coronavirus, you know you're kidding yourself, right? You know you're delusional. Because this is opening the door for a brand new form of censorship, the likes of which I don't think I've ever seen in my life. I remember that the internet is the new frontier, the bold new frontier. Anything goes. You got an opinion, that's where you are. You got speech, you got a belief that the moon is made out of Swiss cheese. You're allowed to post that. You want to have a YouTube channel about how the moon is made out of Swiss cheese? You go ahead. If you want to say that I don't know that masks are as effective as they are telling us they are now, because after all, it was the very same World Health Organization just a couple of months ago telling us that masks didn't work and we didn't need to get them. We didn't need to wear them. So if you want to have a YouTube video that says, "Listen, I don't agree with wearing masks," chances are they'll take you down. They'll censor you. They'll remove you from their platform. I saw some guy that was on, an attorney who's suing the governor of Nevada because of the hydroxychloroquine ban. He was on a Fox News show, and I saw his tweet last night or the day before yesterday. He said, "I was on Laura Ingram's show talking about my lawsuit against the governor. The next morning, I go to my YouTube channel. YouTube took down all of my videos." Now, I'm just going to ask you a very direct question, and just want to get a couple of quick answers at 1-800-655-MIKE, here as we welcome you in back to the kitchen in the ReliefFactor.com studios. Are Americans ever going to get enraged by this? Are you ever going to get upset about these giant tech companies that everybody uses censoring speech? Or do you understand why they're doing what they're doing? I want to spend a few minutes on this.